Okay, so this expression is economy of scale. And economy of scale is not, it's kind of an idiom, right? It's a phrase that we use and it means a certain thing. Okay, so when I'm making videos, I often make two or three at a time. Why? Because it takes some time to get set up. I have to put in contact lenses and I got to have the time available. I got to do some research, and it's better to do it all at the same time because uh, if I make one video and then I stop and go do something else, then when I make another video, I got to get everything set up and do some preparation, and it's less efficient. So I make two or three at a time. I've made as many as 20 at a time. Years ago, before I sort of changed the style of doing things, I would do one after the other. Boom, boom, boom. You know, uh, and so it's because of the economy of scale that I get when I do many at the same time because I'm already seated, I'm already here, I got my lights. If I if I make one video at a time, I lose that economy of scale. So for each video that I do at a time at one sitting, then it becomes more efficient for each video, the amount of preparation time and effort and stuff. Okay, so that goes with a lot of things. If you're studying language, are you going to sit down and just learn one word? Hopefully, you can have time to learn several words because you have to have the time available. You got to open the book, you got to get the book out. And so you make a list of words because for each additional word that you do, it becomes more efficient, right? And up until a point, okay? So here's another thing. I used to work at this factory, and I'm going to show you the kind of factory that it was. Um, okay. Well, first of all, let's take a look at this chart here. Okay. So this shows that the cost per unit, and that could mean cost mean time, money, uh, you know, time and money, or kind of yeah, both of those things are costs, right? Uh, so at low capacities, unit costs are the highest. We know that, right? So the more items, so like if you had a coffee shop, right, and you sold just one cup of coffee, you built the coffee shop, you bought the land, you hired the staff, you bought the coffee machines and stuff, and then you sold just one cup of coffee. That cup of coffee that you just produced is a very, very expensive cup of coffee. But if you get a lot of people coming in and a lot of people ordering cups of coffee, each cost is divided up amongst those many cups of coffee. Okay? So if you sell 250,000 cups of coffee, then your costs per unit are going to be cheaper. Okay. Um, so this is the maximum efficiency here when the costs are at their lowest. Now it's eventually going to go back up. It will go back up, and you'll become less efficient because uh, you have to spend more money to hire managers, and you have to like your market might be saturated, so you're running out of customers and stuff. But anyway, in this video, we're just going to talk about this part of the curve. Okay. Okay. So now, I used to work for a factory that made this kind of strut. Okay. And I did several jobs. One of the jobs was I punched these holes, right? So let's imagine that I I just punched one of these pieces per night, I would have the supervisor over angry at me because that one piece of channel cost the company a lot of money to pay my salary and stuff, and to also to pay for the machinery to sit there. Anyway, this channel is everywhere you look, actually, but it's not like a Nintendo or some famous product, right? It's kind of invisible. But anyway, I used to work on this kind of roll forming machine, and let me show you what this looks like. I didn't work for this company, I'm just using this video. So those are the finished pieces of channel. Okay. Okay, so the metal strip comes off of this big thing. Ours looked a little bit different. Ours was more like vertical. I mean, it's up on its side, but okay. So, and some of them were like this too. But this piece of metal goes into this thing. This metal is very, very sharp. Oh my God, I know a guy who got really hurt on one of these things. Okay, so it spins off of here, sometimes at very, very fast speeds, and each one of these rollers puts a little bend in it. Okay, and each roller puts a bend in it, and at the end it comes out like this. Okay, let's watch this a little bit more. See, each one of these rollers puts a tiny bend in this, goes down, and look at the shape changing, 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 changing. Okay, and this thing here is called a die, and this looks very similar to the thing that I did. It's called a die, and this cuts it, and it's actually moving with the metal. Okay, because it couldn't cut it without damaging it because it's moving at a high rate of speed. Boom. Okay, see, that makes it, like, you can't hear it because I turned down the sound, but that makes an extremely loud sound. It sounds like boom, boom, boom. That's why I hated my job, because it was so noisy. And then what happens is this comes here, and there's a at the end, then that die cuts off those pieces of channel, and it came onto a rack that was like this, and so the flippers would flip this channel down, and my job was to stack it into stacks, and it was fairly easy. I mean, it was a noisy, miserable job, but I was using that as a job to get through college. So I would stack channel and do that kind of job in the evening. I worked full time, and then in the morning I would get up and go down to community college, and I had to drive like an hour each way at least, and it was a harder life than I have now, that's for sure. Okay, but that's what it's all about, so let's take a look here. Okay. And I would, by the time I finished stacking them, so I would put these stakes in, and this is a little weird because this is kind of flat. Let's take a look at this. I think I did it like his job. Come on, hurry up. There, it looks exactly like it. But the thing of it that this will probably not show is that there was like a white liquid coolant which ran through these channels, and there's lots of steel dust in through here. It's nasty. Looked so similar to this. So you can imagine when that, boom. So that doesn't look noisy, but I wonder if it's.
In the post-punk.
Okay, no, the guy's talking. Okay. Very noisy. And it wasn't really like that. This shows it like dry, but this is, okay, you can see this coolant everywhere. But the stuff that we used had oil mixed in with it too. So it looked very milky. Okay, that uncoiler. I know a guy, man, the steel started to fall off of this coiler, and he tried to catch it, and it landed on his arm. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about it. Now this guy is like the operator, right? And these guys over here, ours was like not like this, all safe and everything, okay? They say like people that use their hands for a living are they think they're dumb. No. To run one of these things, to know how all of these rollers go is hard, right? Nobody really wants to train you either. It's like the company wants to save money, so they save it by never training anybody. Not easy. And the guy that was the operator and responsible for this huge thing, and any little thing could cause it to mess up. My job was similar to this. Oh, okay, here we go. See that? But ours was not that easy. We had to we didn't pick it up. There was not two men. It was one guy flipping this stuff. You had to stack it by yourself. It was not that sort of easy. I think it was almost easier though, because we had these stakes too. See, it was exactly like that. It just not two guys. It was one guy flipping it. Wow, so automatic and cool. Okay, we didn't have anything like that. All right. Uh, those were the days when they expected people to be tough and deal with things on their own. Okay. So, now, you saw that extremely, extremely, extremely expensive machine. And so, imagine if they purchased all of this whole big, huge factory and they bought this whole thing and then they just produced one. Okay, that's going to be a very expensive piece of metal, a very expensive product. So they try to keep this machine running as much and as fast as possible, and they run it 24 hours a day because this thing is expensive. So they have to sell a whole bunch of these things in order to just pay for this machine setup, right? Look at all this expensive stuff, okay? So that is a perfect example of economy of scale. The more you can keep that machine running, and that machine could be anything, making coffee or studying vocabulary or anything, let's say for example, if you have a big truck and your truck is meant for delivering things, you want to keep that truck rolling as much as you can because you have the basic cost of the truck. So you get an economy of scale when you do things in a big amount. That's why things are cheaper. Like when you buy a large amount of something, it's cheaper because they They can afford to sell them to you cheaper because they have less packaging and everything like that. So economy of scale means that for each unit that you produce in number of vocabulary, or I can't think of, even kids, like if you have 10 kids, each kid is going to be cheaper to raise by the, it's going to cost you a lot more totally, but each individual kid is going to cost you less to raise because they can share responsibilities, they can share their clothes. When you cook a big pot of something, then you can feed a whole bunch of people, so you get this economy of scale. Okay? Now, I made a video called Diminishing Returns, which means that at a point you get this economy of scale, and things are getting cheaper, but later you get diminishing returns, which means that for whatever reason it becomes less efficient. And that's going to be that way with anything, right? Facebook, for example. Well, first go watch the video of diminishing returns. But let's say diminishing returns. Facebook is becoming, they spend money to advertise their brand and spend money for infrastructure, and the more viewers, the more users they get, the cheaper it is to build all of this infrastructure. But it gets to a point where they get diminishing returns, okay, which means that it becomes more expensive for each extra a viewer, or not viewer, but like a, what do you call it, a customer, not customer, I forgot what it's called, just a user, right? Because, why? Because the world runs out of users. That the people that are going to be interested in it are going to be fewer and fewer, because not everybody's going to want to do it, right? And that goes for anything. The market becomes saturated. So I got this coffee shop, and I'm selling tons and tons of coffee, but eventually the number of people that want to come to my coffee shop becomes fewer, because it's like the market is saturated. Okay, so you get this thing where you get the law of diminishing returns, economy of scale, and then it reaches a point where it's becoming less and less. You still get the economy of scale, but you have many different reasons why it could become less efficient. So, all right, so I'm studying vocabulary. I get this economy of scale because I studied 20 vocabulary, but we have to face the reality that you're going to start to get tired and more tired, and you're going to retain less, and so so if I make, if I start to make 20 videos, then I start to get tired, and I start to make mistakes and stuff. Or I'm making fried chicken, right? I make one piece of fried chicken. That took me a lot of time to prepare everything and put it in the flour and everything. But if I make a big batch, then it becomes less efficient. And if I have a whole bunch of people over to eat all of this fried chicken, I don't have places for them to sit, so I'm going to have to buy some chairs or whatever. So there's lots of reasons that increasing inputs will become less efficient. So that's why you get economy of scale. You're going to get that, but you also have other things that make you have diminishing returns. They can happen at the same time, but it's going to be like this all the time. More efficient. It's weird how they've got it like upside down, but it's talking about the cost per unit is going down, and then it starts to become less efficient. So it becomes more expensive to produce more outputs, right? So like in that factory, for example, let's take a look. Okay. Okay. So what happens is they keep this machine running all the time, but then they get enough of these employees here, and then they have to hire a manager, right? Or the they have to hire more forklift operators, you know, and it becomes less efficient because don't have enough space to put all of this stuff, you know, and you know, then it gets to the point where it becomes more expensive, mainly due to running out of space and needing to buy more buildings and also hire new managers and stuff like that. So things can become less efficient too as they increase. So you have to be a good manager and have common sense enough to realize where that point is, right? And you're probably going to go past this point too and continue up this side because you're still getting a higher volume of output. Okay, God, that's complicated, but hopefully you can understand it. And if you need to, you can slow down the video. Okay. Okay, so I will talk to you on the next video.